Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is NBA trade deadline day, and we are here on All Things Cleveland Cavaliers, episode number 67. We have a special guest with us today, and I'm going to let my man Joey Schneider introduce him.
What's going on, Brandon? We today have a very special guest, Jeffrey from the Cleveland Pulse. What is going on, man? It is good to have you on the show.
Hey, guys, I'm glad to be here. It's one of the better days of the year in the NBA. Not totally exciting and fascinating for our Cleveland Cavaliers, but sometimes doing nothing is maybe just as important to talk about as making a move. So I think there's some good stuff to talk about here tonight.
I agree 100%. You know what? Our trade deadline came when we got a superstar known as Donovan Mitchell. So we got spoiled a little early. It's kind of like maybe your parents are going out of town. You got to celebrate your birthday a week early. So the day isn't that special, but you still got your cake. It was still an enjoyable day. But before we get into all the trade talk, Brandon, Jeffrey, we need to talk about some stuff. The Cavs are on a 4-game winning streak. Brandon, last week we previewed the Cavs against the Grizzlies, the Pacers, the Wizards, the Pistons. Now I want to talk about this first game. The Grizzlies, as you know, is a team that I liked, and I put that as past tense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the Grizzlies anymore. And Dylan Brooks, he got the mess around and find out treatment from Donovan Mitchell. He had that dirty play, hit Donovan Mitchell right in the groin, and got thrown around on national television. Uncle Shannon Sharp was just going nuts watching that on his TV. And the Cavs just absolutely blasted the Grizzlies 128-113. I thought that was an inspiring win. Mitchell did not take it from Dylan Brooks. He had some choice words for him after the game. He said that he's been a problem throughout the league. Named a couple of other players who obviously have had issues with him. And the Cavs responded really well when Donovan got ejected, and just absolutely blew him out after that.
Cavs' first back-to-back wins since early January. How many times me and Joey have come on here, Jeffrey, and said, can the Cavs just get a winning streak going? Because every time, right, it was win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And I really thought, and as Joey alluded to earlier, we predicted the Cavs to go 3-1 in the last 4 games. We predicted them to lose to Memphis and then obviously come back and win the next 3. But I thought personally that Memphis victory was a catalyst for what we've seen over the last 3 games. And that was the first time really in maybe 2 months that this Cavs team played to a good team's level of competition. They played to the level of what they should be doing. They played consistent basketball for 4 quarters, and they absolutely proved once again that when they are focused and when they play together and when they get contributions from guys outside of Donovan Mitchell and outside of Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, they are one tough team to beat.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this the last few weeks. Evan Mobley, when he is aggressive, is a scary individual to deal with. Mm-hmm. And he has been very aggressive, a lot more aggressive. There has still been times in the game where I think that he's been a little bit more passive, but for the most part, he has stayed aggressive in these games. And you can tell because he's putting up between 17 to 22 points a game. He's had, he's around 8-12 boards, 3-4 blocks, some steals. He's a great passer for a 7-foot big man. And he showed that off. He's been showing that all year, but like these 4 games have really shown off what we're hoping that he's going to become. And I still think that he's just scratching the surface. Also, a huge shout out to my pick for the most improved player this year, Isaac Okoro, because
Interesting.
at that very first episode we picked was it most improved? Is that how we worded it? Or
I think we said breakout, right? Wasn't it
breakout
Fair
players?
enough.
This is our second season, and the first season I picked Dylan Windler, thinking we were going to go, outside the box, and he picked. Who did you pick? He picked Evan Mobley. He picked Evan Mobley as the third pick in the draft as the breakout star. So this year he actually picked Isaiah Mobley, and I went with Isaac Okoro. I thought Okoro, hearing everyone talk about all the work he put in this offseason, obviously came off to a kind of a rough start the first half of the season so far, and this last month and a half he's shooting, I think, 42 or 43% from three. I mean, he's just extremely efficient. If he's shooting 7 shots, he's making 6 of them. He's grabbing 5 boards, 4 assists, some steals, some blocks. He's just all over the place. So I'm real happy that Okoro is making these strides, because we definitely could use it on this team. But next up, the Cavaliers absolutely going into Indiana and blasting the Pacers 122-103. This was a revenge game. We said it was a revenge game. It felt like a revenge game, and the Cavs took care of business there. The Cavs then went into Washington, absolutely annihilated the Wizards 114-91. And the Pistons coming into town, the Cavs decided to rest Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and it didn't matter because the Cavs still won by almost 30, 113-85. This is exactly what the Cavs needed. They needed to get on a winning streak, like they did early in the season. They are now 35-22. They are in sole possession of 4th place in the East, and the Nets are in the rear view, and they will probably stay in the rear view for a good while. And we will get to that in a few moments. But this is exactly what the Cavs needed. They're only 1 game back of the 3rd spot behind Philadelphia. And I mean, yeah, both of your thoughts, 4-game win streak. It just seems to be happening at the right time, and hopefully we can carry this momentum, up until the All-Star break and even through.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I really do think that the Memphis game that'll be the moment that is remembered, but the Heat game, losing that close one, was the first time this season where it really felt like there could be justifiable panic, because they're right behind us in the standings, and not full blown, the sky is falling, but okay, we're not invincible. We have to play consistent and cohesive basketball. Like you said, Brandon, play to people's opponent or the opponent's skill upward. Don't play downward, play upward. And I think that Miami game really showed us, hey, we can't just walk into gyms and beat people if we're not fully focused. We get a good help and boost in the Memphis game with a little bit of spark put underneath us. And now we're going on a winning streak. And I think if you win against this Pelicans team tomorrow, you have a real good chance of running the table before the All-Star break. You still have some other bigger games in there, but you have to go on winning streaks to make any ground in the Eastern Conference. We started off so well, and that helped us a lot, but winning one, losing one, teams don't go on these big losing streaks in the NBA, especially if you're contending for a top 5 or 6 seed. So you have to go on winning streaks to be able to make any headway. It's clicking at the right time for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I thought personally the Cavs did what they needed to do, and they did what they should have done, which is beat up on bad teams. And so that's why, the word impressive, I wouldn't really use to describe these last 3 games. I would just say they did what they were supposed to do. They are superior to Washington. They are superior to Indiana. And they are definitely superior to Detroit. And the Cavs, for once this season, again, for the first time it felt like in a month or two, showed their muscle. And hopefully that can can catalyst them into this All-Star break. I get they had a rough schedule in January. Now every team in the NBA does play each other at least twice, so the Cavs are getting a little bit of a schedule break right now, but they're taking advantage of it, and that's what good teams do.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting to see. From here to the All-Star break, the Cavs need to keep their winning ways going, and I think that like Jeffrey said, they have a good chance of doing it. That Heat game, it was so close, they're right behind us, and it just out of reach. And then it seems like they all came together, like you said, Brandon, in the Grizzlies game, and they beat the brakes off of Memphis. Maybe that's what they needed. They needed to lose a real heartbreaker and then to come back and rally together. So maybe that was the perfect storm to get them to continue on this winning streak and hopefully put them maybe into the 3, maybe even get up into the 2 seed. I don't know.
Potentially.
There's a couple of good teams at the top.
Jeffrey, I just for the record, when we made our predictions to start this season, I had predicted the Cavs to finish second in the East.
I think I was very similar to that as well. I actually so we did predictions to start the year. I said we were going to be 55-27. So I don't think that's going to happen. I was super optimistic though. And I kind of didn't think the East was going to be this good. I knew that it was going to be competitive, but I didn't think it was going to be this competitive. I think after the trades today, which I know we're going to talk about, it actually gets less competitive. So it's interesting to monitor moving forward.
I think, Brandon, did you have 52?
I had 53.
You had 53, and I think I had 54.
Okay, so we're
all
right there.
Right. We're all around the same. Well, speaking of the East getting less competitive, we have some trades that we are going to talk about.
Yes,
now,
we do.
I'm sure everyone has probably heard already, but you're going to hear it from our perspective. We're going to start not with the biggest one, but we're going to start with the one that really kind of kicked it all off, which was the Dallas Mavericks trading for Kyrie Irving from the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets got Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 2029 first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, and the Mavericks ended up getting, like I said, Kyrie Irving and Markieff Morris in the deal. I think that this was a win for the Nets because you only had Kyrie, I believe, for this is a contract year, so this is last year. You got a first-round pick for him, and he was probably going to leave anyway. The Mavericks hopefully can hang on to him if they really like him and he plays well with Luka. And obviously you can kind of see the Mavericks losing Jalen Brunson. You can see that it definitely hurt them. So, right now Luka's nursing a little bit of an injury, but last night the Mavericks played with Kyrie and Kyrie got him their first win, pretty solid first outing. I thought it was a good trade all around. And this kind of started the whole thing. What did you guys think about that trade?
So this trade for me changes based off the events of what happened today. Now when it first happened, I did not love the move for Brooklyn at all. I did not understand it, and I know me and you, Joey, have talked about this multiple times. Obviously, when they had Kevin Durant, I was of the belief that you have one of the top players in the NBA. You do whatever you can to maximize your opportunity at that point. Whether you let Kyrie leave a free agency, or maybe you find a way to mend the fences, what have you. But to only get a couple of rotational players and a first round pick for a guy like Kyrie Irving, I thought was a little bit on the low end for Brooklyn. And then for Dallas's perspective, I get it, right? You're trying to get Luka Doncic, that second star. Kristaps Porzingis did not work out. You're obviously trying to get a running mate with Luka, but this trade, Luka and Kyrie, fit wise, I don't know exactly how well it fits. I mean, I feel like they both, even though they're both great passers and they can pass the ball, they both need the ball in their hands a lot. And as we've seen, now with these additions in the West, I really don't know how much better that makes Dallas. Maybe by a seed or two, but I don't think, looking back, I get it. It's worth the risk, but I don't know how much it necessarily moves the needle.
like I said earlier, I think that people are putting too much stock in the Cavs not making a move when we need to be happy about all the other stuff that did happen, because you get the best case scenario, I think, is that as soon as Kyrie asked for a trade, I said that they rumored the teams, okay, maybe Miami, maybe some other teams in the East, and then Dallas said just send him to Dallas. I don't think it puts Dallas over the top. Let's just say the Cavs, were in running to go to the finals. I don't think we see Dallas there. Let's just say the Cavs end up in the finals. He doesn't go to a team in the East. Perfect. He also leaves Brooklyn. So that's kind of a three-pronged thing there. Kevin Durant's going to be out the door shortly after that. He goes to the West. Now that's a little bit scarier of a situation, but if you're a realistic Brooklyn fan or a fan of the NBA, I think you're thrilled with these trades, honestly. Like, sure, it sucks it didn't work out. First it was Harden, Kyrie, then Durant, then you had to try and Ben Simmons. It sucks it didn't work, and I think that people who are realistic about that team over there, who are actually Brooklyn Net fans, can live with that, because at the end of the day, I don't think this Nets roster was really going anywhere in the East this year. Sure, you have Kevin Durant, who's a perennial postseason player. Sure, you have Kyrie Irving, who's had good moments in the postseason. Two guys who handled us last year, the Cavaliers in the play-in game. So nothing to discredit from them, but I don't think they were Eastern Conference, championship contenders really whatsoever. I don't think Dallas is like, Brandon said, I don't think that they have enough pieces over there. They did get a running mate for Luka, which makes sense. Probably is an upgrade over Brunson, who they didn't want to extend, which they look smart for not doing that now. I always never got that they didn't want to pay Brunson, but I think that it worked out great for a lot of the sides there besides, Brooklyn Net fans, which is unfortunate.
I'm actually I'm a big fan of Christian Wood on the Mavericks too.
Yeah,
I think
kind of a mini big three.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously not I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but I would say that he's a solid center. So, it's just someone else that they have on the team. And we're going to get to the Cavs here in a minute with all their big splashy moves, and everyone who wanted them to make them. But we want to get through some of these monster trades, like the one that happened after Kyrie was traded in the middle of the night. It was about, I want to say like 1:15.
1 a.m. Yep.
Yeah, and
I had just gone to sleep 2 minutes ago.
I was scrolling Twitter and I saw it and I was like, oh no. The Phoenix Suns traded Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Suns traded Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 first-round picks and a 2028 pick swap to the Brooklyn Nets for Kevin Garnett and TJ Warren.
Give me Kevin Durant, not Garnett.
Oh, I say Kevin Garnett. Wow. I'm sorry. I was just talking to someone about Kevin Garnett, like maybe 10 minutes before we started recording. But yeah, Kevin Durant and TJ Warren. That is a scary team in the West now. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant or Garnett, whichever one you want. But Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, and you know what? If TJ Warren's healthy, I mean, I know he didn't play for 2 years. TJ Warren, if he can get somewhere near where he was a great player too. Now, obviously, the Suns gave up a lot of the role players, but they still got some good pieces down there. That's a scary team. That's a scary team, especially if they mesh well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Nets maximized what they got. I cannot fault the Nets whatsoever.
Right.
Mikal Bridges. I mean, I think most teams probably would have given up 2 to 3 first round picks for Mikal Bridges. If they, if they want to get rid of him, but I wouldn't. He's 26. He's you can really build around him a little bit. Cam Johnson, I like. Jay Crowder's already gone. He was already traded in another trade, which netted them 2 second-round picks, but then 4 first-round picks, a 2028 pick swap. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to do. So I thought it was a great trade for both teams. Durant got to go where he wanted. The Nets got a massive haul, but man, that just Twitter exploded. I thought my TV was about to explode, and I mean, it was I don't know who got to it first. I don't know if it was Shams or if it was Woj, but I think it was Woj who got to that one first because it was a pretty big bomb.
So Joey, last summer, if you remember when this news broke that Kevin Durant was requesting a trade out of Brooklyn, it was about a couple of days before we recorded, probably around episode 35 is somewhere around there of ATC. And I remember saying at that time, if I am the Brooklyn Nets, because Kevin Durant had just signed that extension that summer, I had said to the world here on ATC, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, in no way, shape, or form am I trading Kevin Durant. And regardless of what happened with Kyrie Irving, I still feel that way. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets, there's no way in hell I was trading Kevin Durant. And I also disagree they got enough. I don't think they got anything. They got a couple of rotational players and 4 first-round picks that are more than likely going to be at the bottom of the first round. And you just traded away a generational, still arguably top 7 player in this league. Now, if you're going to go full rebuild, fine. That's okay. But I thought at least Phoenix would have to give up one of Aiden or Paul or Booker. They didn't even have to give up one of them. It was mostly just for rotational players and draft picks. For Phoenix, I agree. I love it for them. They went all in. I do think this makes them a perennial championship contender if they all stay healthy. Obviously, Durant has had injury issues in the past. Chris Paul has had injury issues in the past. So they do need to stay healthy. But I do think if you're Phoenix, it is worth the risk. This is a team that has never won an NBA championship before in a Western Conference this year, where you are dealing with a lot of teams with very similar records. There is not one dominant team. And if one team can get healthy, I think they have a chance to go all the way. But yeah, I'm very in for it for Phoenix. It could blow up in the next 2-3 years. You know, Durant gets old, Chris Paul decides to retire. Maybe Devin Booker is the last one standing. We'll see how DeAndre Ayton performs in the postseason after his struggles, specifically Game 7 last year against Dallas. But that's kind of my take on it. How about you, Jeffrey?
So like you guys, I was asleep when this happened. So I woke up. It didn't really register to me till about being awake for like 2 hours. It was like, okay, Durant to the West is so far out there, man. The West Coast road trips, nobody likes those. We follow Eastern Conference teams a lot closer is the moral of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works for both squads, like you were saying, Joey. At the end of the day, my one thought about this move, and as far as the NBA and most sports, Cleveland sports in general, and just general sports, I tend to lean as a contrarian thinker. I don't think Phoenix comes out of the West. That's all I have to say. Even with this move, I think that's my prediction for the episode here on ATC. First one. I appreciate you guys having me on, but I don't think they come out of the West. It's just something about it.
Okay, no, I mean, that's fair.
I think Denver comes out of the West.
Okay, see, I don't at all. See, I don't at all. I don't like Denver at all. I
didn't like them last year, but if Murray's healthy.
If Murray's healthy is the key.
See,
they're good.
If they're good, but I mean,
maybe do you think the Lakers will come out of the West?
No, I don't. I still, if Golden State gets back healthy, if Golden State gets back healthy,
they're always liable.
I think Golden State, Phoenix, and if the Clippers, I'm telling you this too, if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are healthy, I think Clippers, Golden State, Phoenix, I think they're all better than Denver. That's just me personally.
Fair enough. And that was sarcasm too. I didn't like any of the Lakers moves. I don't know about you guys. I know people are saying they got better. I think they did get better, but they're like just shuffling chairs over there. They're not making any noise. They'll be lucky to be a play-in team.
So we'll talk about this. I got maybe just 2 more trades to talk about real quick. Though we're gonna do the Lakers. It was a 3-team trade. The Lakers got rid of Russell Westbrook, sent him to the Jazz. The Jazz, the 3-team trade, the Jazz got Russell Westbrook, Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Jones. The Timberwolves got old man Mike Conley, even though I love Mike Conley. I'm not, a lot of
Ohio State boys in this trade.
Yeah. Nickeil Alexander-Walker and 3 second-round picks. The Lakers got D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. Do I think the Lakers got better? I absolutely think they got better because you need to surround LeBron with some shooters. D'Angelo Russell shooting the ball a lot better than he did last year. Malik Beasley is around a 38% three-point shooter. And he's not afraid to fire it up. I think that Vanderbilt is a good rotational piece. I liked the trade they made to get Hachimura from the Wizards. And the best analogy is, I'm not coming up with this myself, is, someone else said it. They have basketball players on the team now, if that makes any sense. It's not these players you've never heard of. They have solid rotational pieces to go around LeBron, to go around AD. If AD can somehow turn it around and play like the MVP like he was in the beginning of the season, I'm not saying that they're going to come out of the West. They might be a play-in team. But there's a chance with this roster, there's a chance that they could potentially make the playoffs as a play-in team. I think that they definitely got better, but it's not going to make them a contender by any means.
So this trade to me all depends on Anthony Davis's health.
Yes.
Because I do think that the Lakers got better. Joey knows this, Jeffrey. I am not a big fan of Russell Westbrook.
Fair.
So I think he was just holding the Lakers down, and in a way I think it's addition by subtraction. I like the D'Angelo Russell fit, though. Same thing with Kyrie. I don't think it's necessarily a needle mover, but I do think, for the Lakers, there are times this year they do look like a pretty good basketball team. And then there's other times where they look like the worst team on the planet that are completely unwatchable. And so I think, I've always felt this. I think LeBron's kind of best natural position is point forward / point guard. D'Angelo Russell kind of is more like that Kyrie, like a scoring guard. Maybe you let LeBron kind of bring the ball up, run the point a little more, run some more pick and roll, and get him back to me in his natural position. That may help. I do think that they have a lot more depth, which is what they needed. So I think they'll be better. Unlike you guys, I do think that there is an expectation for them now to at least make the playoffs. And I do think that, like, anytime you have LeBron on your team, and they got a little bit younger, and if Anthony Davis plays at the level that he did in 2020 in that bubble, I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, because I think there's 4 to 5 teams better than them. But could they win a playoff series or two? Absolutely, yes, I think they could.
I totally agree with Anthony Davis. I think he's been their key since the championship, just because two things can be true at once. LeBron is the best 38-year-old player to ever play in the NBA. I don't think that that's up for debate. The second thing that's true, if this was a 28-year-old LeBron on this roster, I'm telling you right now, they're probably going to the finals, or they're going to the Western Conference Championship. He just can't do that for what is it? If every series goes 7 games, 6 games, you're talking 20 games before you're even at a finals appearance.
And me and Joey have talked about this, and we started noticing this, last year especially, but maybe it was the year after the Lakers won the championship. And that is more so, you can have the greatest amount of stars now in the NBA, but this NBA now, we have seen so much influx of stars in the past year or two. It is really about depth and team chemistry.
Yep, I will agree that they did work on their depth, but it's just the Lakers, the aura of the franchise. Like, anything they do, I would never want to be the general manager for the Los Angeles Lakers. You're big market, spotlights on you. You really don't have a whole lot of, loyal fan base, couple of people, but there's so many teams over there. You could be a fan of Golden State. You could be a fan of the Clippers. It's basically just a celebrity show over there. So I would never want to be their general manager, because if you don't do anything, you're getting criticized. You have to do something over there just so you're in the headlines consistently. It could just be shuffling chairs around, which I think a lot of it was. I think the Hachimura trade, the first one they did, was my favorite one. And after that, it was kind of like, okay, let's just see if we could shake it up, because we only have so many more years of this, really.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to go too many more trades. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire here. Just some notable things. Brandon talked about the Clippers. Clippers acquired Bones Highland from the Nuggets for 2 second rounders. They also got Eric Gordon from the Rockets and gave up Luke Kennard. There really wasn't any massive trades in the East. I mean, everything was pretty low key. The Hawks acquired Sadiq Bey from the Pistons. The Pistons got James Wiseman from the Warriors, and the Warriors got Kevin Knox and 5 second round picks, which was 5 second round picks seem to be a lot of a lot of picks. And there's a lot of second rounders. People really like the second rounders this year, which was crazy.
It's just funny because how many players are on an NBA roster? 13? 15. So yeah, it's like, what are you gonna have? What are you gonna pick all 5 guys? Obviously not.
I mean, you can, that's the thing is, like, a lot of people are asking, what can you do with those second round picks? Well, a lot of them, you can package them. You can try to move back into the first round if maybe someone doesn't have the cap space to. They're sitting at 27, 28, something like that. They don't have the cap space.
It's just a funny thing to read on Twitter. Like, this person 4 or 5 second round picks. You're like, what?
13 second round picks.
Over the last few years in the draft, and me and Joey talked this over last year when it was, around draft time. There has been some good players to come out of the second round of the last few drafts.
Sure.
But historically, past the lottery, it is really, you're either going to get a really good contributing player, someone that's going to shock you as how good they are, or they're going to be a complete bust and not be able to play at all.
Yep.
Right. But in the past maybe 8 to 10 years, there has been a lot more players who have been taken later on in the draft who have become solid players, whether it's starting or
well, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but that's how I think people don't really understand that roster size is really the deciding factor. You can't look at the NFL draft versus the NBA draft. That's apples to oranges.
No, you're
a first round pick is going to be in the NFL is going to be one of your top 10, 15 players on however many people are on an NFL roster, 50 some guys. Like, when you were talking, Joey, what came to my mind is Cam Thomas in Brooklyn. A late first rounder in NFL teams, you're starting. Late first rounder doesn't get to play at all because Kyrie's in front of you. There could be somebody in front of you. The guy's he's a perennial hooper. He's a stud. And they just sit on these guys' benches. And like you were alluding to, Joey, they go somewhere else. They get more playing time, better system, different scenery. They're good. Turns out everybody in the league's a pretty good basketball player.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just – I mean, like, I just picked a random draft. I picked the 2019 draft. I don't even know who was taken. The Cavs took that was the Darius Garland draft. John Morant went 2, Zion Williamson went 1. But I'm looking outside the top 10. You're looking outside the top 10. Tyler Hero taken at 13.
Yep.
Let's see. Thibault taken at 20. Brandon Clark taken at 21. Grant Williams taken at 22 from the Celtics. You had that was Keldon Johnson taken by the Spurs at 29, Jordan Poole taken by the Warriors at 28.
Right. Who took
in the second round? I
30 was Kevin Porter Jr.
Okay. Kobe Altman took Windler before Jordan Poole in that draft.
Yeah. Oh God. Not pick 31.
But then he traded for KPJ, so it was like it was close, and then the whole Soup Bowl and everything. We know that story, but
here, let me pick 31, Nick Claxton. Look at how good. Pick 38, Daniel Gafford. I mean, Eric Paschal, pick 41 by the Warriors. I mean, I'm not saying that these are monster players,
but they're role contributing.
Terrence Mann, 48 from the Clippers. Jalen McDaniels, we were just talking about him, 52 from the Hornets. I mean, and I just picked this draft at random.
You could find value.
That's the thing is, I think if you look at drafts from the early 2000s, and before, even up to like 2010, you have your lottery, and then you have maybe a couple, like 1 or 2 guys who had a solid NBA career outside of the lottery. You go back the past 10 years, you are finding much more valuable because it's these guys, even though the lottery you have a better chance of finding your star in the lottery,
Right.
especially those top 5, top 8 picks. It's just a different era. You can find star value even into the second round.
Well, it's just like even above average rosters, they don't care about first round picks. That's why the trade deadline in the offseason is so fun. I mean, take our Cavaliers from last year. You have a 14th overall pick. You select Ochai Agbaji. How many minutes was he going to get? Let's say we never make the Mitchell trade. He might have been a rotational guy.
Yeah,
and we were we didn't even make its playoff series last year. So imagine the top 10% of teams. A first round pick means nothing to them unless it's like generational, and you're not even in that category anyway. And even your above average teams who are in the play-in game, which it's interesting that we miss the playoffs. We get where we're at, which gives us capital to move for Mitchell. Funny irony at the end of the day, but it's like top 14th, 15th pick isn't really, even having a huge impact on your roster unless you're in a rebuilding phase like the bottom 10, 15% of the teams in the league are.
Yeah, just to kind of finish this off here before we start talking about our Cleveland Cavaliers, not much in the East. The only two trades I really wanted to talk about, the Raptors did get a little bit better trading for Jakob Poeltl from the Spurs. Yeah. They gave up Khem Birch, a first-round pick, and 2 second-rounders. The Raptors have not been playing that great this season. They weren't able to move OG Anunoby. They were asking for way too much. They were asking for basically a Donovan Mitchell / Kevin Durant package. That's crazy. And they weren't going to get it. And just a low-key move that I really like, the Knicks got Josh Hart from the Trailblazers for Cam Reddish and a couple of players, so I'm going to try to pronounce their names, and a 2023 lottery protected first-round pick. So Reddish finally got moved, not to the Cavs. A lot of people were talking about that, obviously. But there just wasn't a lot of movement in the East. It was everything from the East was going to the West. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out once all the players get to their respective teams. But I think that we need to address the elephant in the room here, fellas, and that is that the Cleveland Cavaliers did not make a trade. And everyone was screaming at the top of their lungs, oh, go and get this player. Go and get that player. See what the Nets want from Mikal Bridges. He's going to demand about 3 first-round picks, which the Cavs don't have. We made our splash before the season when we got Donovan Mitchell. We got a superstar in Donovan Mitchell. We said this at the beginning of the podcast. A lot of people were saying trade Caris LeVert. You're basically going to trade Caris LeVert to get a player like Caris LeVert. You are not going to find an upgrade for Caris LeVert by trading Caris LeVert. Then they were saying, trade Kevin Love. Teams now, this isn't like it was 15 years ago where teams wanted to shed that cash. They'll take on that money and clear it, but they also want, a couple second-round picks for their trouble too. Well, the Cavs aren't going to give up, they're not going to give you those second-round picks to take money off. And on top of that, if all the rumors are to be believed, the Cavs want to keep Kevin Love around at the veteran minimum next year. Apparently his thumb may need surgery, and that is the reason that he is benched right now. The Cavs did not need to make a move. And for everyone saying, yes, they did. No, they did not. They didn't. Number one, they didn't have the assets to make the splash needed that would have been a clear upgrade over anything that they currently have. And on top of that, you don't really want to mess with team chemistry all that much. And this team, you could see these last 4 games. It doesn't matter how well. I'm sorry, not how well, but how good the teams were playing are. It's about, you can see that this team is one unit. You can see how much they root for each other. And when you mess with that chemistry, it can really throw a lot of things off. So I'm glad the Cavs didn't make a move. I don't think there was a move out there for them. And I don't think, even if there was, I don't think that they had the assets to make that move.
So, Joey, me and you talked about trades, obviously, a lot over the last month. Last week, we spent a lot of deep dive on it. And we kind of both agreed that our gut feeling was they were not going to make a move, and if they were, it was going to be a very small move. I think we can all sit here and say, would it be nice the Cavs can add an extra backup, power forward or an extra backup center, via the buyout market? Sure. But my biggest takeaway from them not making a deal is they really, as Joey said, didn't have to, because Brooklyn has made the East a whole lot easier just by them, deciding to blow it up. And the Cavs right now, I'm just sitting here thinking about these teams. Obviously, there's a couple teams in front of them right now, but there is not a lot in the way of the Cavs making some legitimate noise after we sat here a couple weeks ago, Jeffrey, and said, my goodness, if they lose a couple more games, they might end up being in the play-in tournament.
Right.
All of a sudden, here we are 2 weeks later, and it's like, do they legitimately have a shot to get, dare I say, a top 2-3 seed in the East?
It's funny how fast the NBA landscape really can change. It's just a couple of moves. One disgruntled superstar. It's just a domino effect, whether it's Kyrie Irving or whoever it is that specific year. The Cavs, to me, it's funny. Well, it's fun. Twitter's just not a real place. I know people say that all the time, but you just can't. We trick ourselves as fans on these narratives that just if you stepped outside of the bubble, they don't make any sense. So, Joey, I think you said it best. The guys let's just talk about Cavs fans. The guys who we were willing to move don't have any real value. Windler has no real value. Kevin Love has no real value. I think the teetering people who some people maybe don't like, some people want to move, are Jetty and LeVert. They didn't. Kobe Altman didn't want to move any of those guys, at least that we know of, or for whatever the price was. And everybody else, I think the controversial player that has the most value at the moment on the team that I think maybe some people would be willing to give up is Isaac Okoro. But if you suggest that on Twitter, oh no, he's just coming along. He just made the turn. He's making the leap right now. Why would you do anything? Those are all valid points. He is coming along as more of an established NBA player, which is true. So at the end of the day, if we were shuffling chairs, I've said this weeks ago over on the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel, doesn't make sense just to shuffle chairs. My biggest thing, and I've been saying this for the past 48 hours because I just don't see people talking about it at all, is what you don't do or what we didn't do or what we did do here affects this next offseason. You have LeVert on an expiring deal. He's automatic question mark if you're on an expiring deal. You have Love on an expiring deal, 2 free agents. Interestingly enough, which I think a lot of people don't know, Jetty has a contract salary next year. It's non-guaranteed money, $6.7 million. Okay. It's non-guaranteed per Sport Track. I didn't know that till a couple of days ago. So, do you want to have a little bit of a transition phase in the middle of this season, or do you want to have a murkier off season? Kobe defers to go just take it to the off season. I think it's fine.
The Okoro thing. The Okoro thing is interesting, and I know me and Joey are the most controversial player on the Cavs, arguably, as you said, Jeffrey, is Isaac Okoro. Me and Joey have gone back and forth on Okoro. I'll just say Okoro drives me nuts. There are times where I want to come out here and scream, get rid of his ass. and then the next day he turns around. It's like he listens to the podcast. Like me and Joey always say, next day he turns around, he makes 5 threes, and I'm like, where the hell did this come from?
As soon as you start talking trash on him, the man, he takes it personally.
Well, and I have said this. My biggest frustration with the core is this, and I get it. These NBA players, they come in sometimes, right? They're so young. They're kids. They need to mature. But I was like, Okoro, up until recently, he was in year 3, and his shot looked completely broken. And in this day and age of the NBA, to me, if you're a wing player like Okoro is, I don't care how good a defense you can play, you have to be able to shoot the basketball. And so, listen, I'm not saying right now give up on him. I think the Cavs already made the right decision to keep him. But I'm also saying he has to continue to keep this up through the rest of the season, because if he reverts back, if we get into a postseason scenario and he reverts back to the old Isaac Okoro,
it's not going to be good enough.
Where defenses are just playing him, to shoot the free and leaving him open in the corner and he can't knock it down, that this offseason, we're going to be right back to the same conversation we've been having for the last year and a half.
Yep. And I think that's it. If you wanted to look at a trade, let's just say Indiana was shopping Buddy Hield, and maybe you overpaid for him. You have to ask yourself, okay, if you're fine with the Cavs not making any moves, I actually agree with you. But you have to ask yourself, you're in a 7-game series. Do you want Buddy Hield in a 7-game series, or do you want Isaac Okoro in a 7-game series this year? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And let's just say for that hypothetical move. And I think most people would say, okay, the shooting prowess that Buddy Hield gives you is always going to be better than Isaac Okoro. Maybe the defense takes a step back. You never know. But it's like, at the end of the day, you're right, Brandon. If we don't perform well in a first-round playoff series and Okoro is not as a low light of that, the offseason gets even more interesting from there.
Well, another thing about this offseason is that Darius Garland will no longer be making $6 million per season. He will be making, I want to say, 32 or 34.
North of 30.
Yeah, his contract kicks in. So there's going to be a lot of decisions that Kobe is going to have to make. But I will say, if there was a deal out there that would have made the Cavs better, I think he would have pulled the trigger. That's the one thing he's always done, is he has always pulled the trigger on deals that will make the Cavs better. If someone offered if Mikal Bridges was out there for Okoro and LeVert, I'm pretty sure that he would have pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
So I trust Kobe. I trust that there just wasn't a deal out there, and it's okay. The Cavs, the Cavs are 13 games over 500. We're 35-22. We're the 4th seed in the East. If we played in the West, we would be the 2 seed. And we're 1 game back of the 3 seed. We're number 1 in all these statistics. We're doing fine. Everyone needs to relax. The Cleveland Cavaliers are doing fine. Yes, when they lose a couple of games that they should win, like when they lose and get drilled by Golden State's G League team, yes, that's a little bit of cause for concern. But you weather the storms, you come back, you take some wins. For every game they lose, they don't really go on too many losing streaks.
No, they don't.
It's they win one, they lose one, they win one, they lose one, and that's I put something out there. There's peaks and valleys in every season. We had a big peak early in the season, and then we're kind of in the valley. Now we're coming back up to a peak.
The Cavs got peaks and valleys like that.
Yeah. So it's just that's just the way it is. They didn't need to make a big splashy move, nor really could they have. But it was a very fun trade deadline this year. A lot of massive trades, really changing the landscape. There's a lot of big moves that are going to be made this offseason. And I will say, I don't remember what team traded for him, but maybe Kobe's looking at some, maybe the buyout market.
That's what I was going to say.
I know that Will Barton is going to get a buyout. Maybe I would not mind Will Barton on the Cavs.
No,
you want a little shooting.
I think you got to take a look at Serge Ibaka just for a backup 5.
Oh, absolutely.
Now this guy would not fit, but I'm telling you, just because I love this player's attitude, there's no way we're gonna get this guy. I'm just gonna tell you.
I already know who he's gonna say.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Give me some Patrick Beverley, man.
Okay.
I thought you were saying Russell Westbrook.
No, absolutely not.
No,
But
Brandon doesn't
Patrick
like Russell
Beverley.
Westbrook.
No, absolutely no Russ. But Patrick Beverley is
Beverley
a dog. If you
I feel about Patrick Beverley the way you feel about Russell Westbrook.
Okay, no, it's fair. I mean, he's not a very good basketball player, but you know what he does? He drives people nuts. And in a 7-game series, when you need somebody to drive somebody nuts, Patrick Beverley's your guy.
We could have used him in that Memphis brawl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He definitely would have got up in there.
That would have been good.
I will say in the Memphis brawl, I'm a little happy Steven Adams was hurt.
Oh, for sure.
Steven Adams may have picked up Evan Mobley with one hand, and
Right.
he is just Steven Adams is just
He
strong as
he's the
all
only
hell.
he's the only Grizzly player I actually enjoy.
John
You know what?
John Morant's amazing. Come on.
I mean, well, as far as like I like overall, obviously they have good players, but
I actually like Desmond Bain.
okay.
And I
I
do
think
too.
they're corny with the refs to me, but that's just a personal thing. Like
They
they're always looking
all
at the refs, throwing their hands up, screaming.
they're
Steven Adams is like
yeah.
kind of like just seems like a normal guy to me.
The Grizzlies, I like them when they, maybe like last year, the year before,
Yes.
but now it's they do too much talking. They haven't
Mhm.
done anything.
Yep.
Just shut up. If you when you win something, you can talk all the trash you want, but you're not the 88, 89 Pistons.
Mhm.
Just keep your mouth shut and play the game. But Brandon, I think we got to look ahead to
Yeah, we
the
do.
next few games.
So here we go. First game tomorrow night. They are in New Orleans to take on a reeling Pelicans team. And fun fact, this will be the last time, unless the Cavs make the NBA Finals, they will tip off at 9 p.m. or later this season. So that is some good news for us.
Awesome.
But I think the Cavs, they play the Pelicans on MLK Day. Obviously New Orleans still missing Zion. I believe they're still missing Ingram as well.
No, Ingram's back.
Is he back? Okay.
Yeah, and he's playing good.
Well, regardless, I think the Cavs will win this game.
This is going to be a good matchup for them because CJ McCollum's playing well, Ingram's back, and tall, lanky, small forward, something that that the Cavs obviously are missing. Valanciunas can pretty much can kind of go off at certain points in the game. The Pelicans are a good team. But I think that if Garland and Mitchell are back, and obviously some extra days of rest, I think the Cavs come out and they handle business. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like the last 4 games, but I think that they can probably win by about 5 or 6.
I'm going to say they win by about 10. I'm going to say
wow.
10-1 victory. Yeah.
I don't want to do spoilers here, gentlemen, but I don't have the Cavs losing until up to the All-Star break.
Okay.
Give me an 8-game winning streak. And that last game in Philly is going to be hard. You're going to have people who want to mail it in. Don't mail the Philly game in. I think that's kind of the interesting one. I thought that the Pistons game was going to be a little bit of a trap game, but we rolled over nice momentum. Glad that we blew them out of the water. I think we beat the Pelicans. We get Chicago at home. I'm not thrilled about the back-to-back. I'm never thrilled about the back-to-back, and we're just a lot better than the Spurs. Then you have Philly. So give me 8 in a row going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, no, I completely agree about Chicago and the Spurs. And, Joey, it's something that we have not talked a lot about on ATC, but the scheduling and these back-to-backs and the load management, since Jeffrey, I guess, inadvertently brought it up, I've been thinking a lot about it. They're not going to do it because of money. Obviously, I think the league wants to keep 82 games and back to back and all that. But I know like Joey and I have talked about this a little bit, Jeffrey, but I thoroughly enjoyed the 72 game season that started in December and ended in July. Post COVID, I thought it was a lot more manageable. The NBA did not have to go up against the NFL that much. They kind of owned the summer because let's face it, baseball can sometimes be really boring unless you have a great team like the Guardians were last year. So I don't know, man. It is food for thought with these back-to-backs. I mean, I am worried a couple of our guys are going to load manage. Hopefully they don't. But I just to get back to the original point, the only true test they have is Philly, which I think will be a tough game, real 50-50 game. I'm going to say I think the Cavs will lose that one. I think that Philly's been a real matchup problem for us. And I think Philly comes away with that victory. But Joey, now that I've given you a mouthful, go ahead.
You know what? I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I'm gonna have to agree with Jeffrey. I'm gonna say Cavs are gonna go into the All-Star break with a 8-game win streak and overtake the Sixers for the 3 seed.
Yep.
I do want one more thing before we go here. Jaylen Brown got a massive elbow in the face from Jason Tatum. So Jaylen Brown is supposedly not going to be able to take part in the All-Star game.
Ooh.
So there is going to be an open spot supposedly,
DG's got to make it, right?
We were talking about this over on our episode this week. What happens with Kyrie going to the West? Is there two open spots?
Kyrie was on the All-Star team
but he's now on the Mavericks. So are they just going to keep him because they don't really do it East versus West anymore?
It's not East versus West.
Yeah,
right?
That was interesting because they do pick All-Stars like that for the most part.
Yeah, it's not East versus West. Well, I'm assuming he's probably going to still stay.
They'll just slot him in.
They'll just slot him in.
Yeah,
but if Jaylen Brown cannot make the All-Star game, does Darius Garland get the nod, or do you think someone like a lot of people are saying Jalen Brunson maybe should have made it?
I mean, Garland should have made it anyway. I don't understand.
I think so too. Like I said, me and you talked about this. I tweeted this. There's only 2 players in the NBA who have more points or averaging more points and assists per game combined, who are averaging more points and assists per game, and it's Ja Morant and Trae Young. Maybe Trae Young gets in. He wasn't, so that's.
That I don't understand either. I don't even understand how Jared Allen didn't get. I thought JA had a All-Star worthy
centers always have a tough road to the All-Star because they're not exciting.
You know what? Do they need? I'm just gonna bring this up. Do they need to expand the All-Star game rosters?
I don't think so.
Do you need?
They just need to totally redo it. They just need to redo the whole weekend and the voting and the fans and this and that. I think Brunson will get in.
So I've been a believer of this for a long time. I don't know how you guys feel about this, because I feel like fans should not vote. That is my personal opinion. I feel like you get a lot of these Twitter people that are putting Zion Williamson in the All-Star game when he's barely played this year, just because he's fun to watch and everybody on Twitter loves him. Like, I just think there are so many guys like one year.
Did Durant make the All-Star? Did Durant make the All-Star game?
That's actually a good question. I believe. I
don't know.
Did.
That's weird. That's a crazy question. I hope so.
But he's not going to play in it. I mean, he's hurt.
But a couple years ago, Andrew Wiggins made the All-Star team and started and didn't even really do. I mean, his numbers were okay. They weren't like starter All-Star worthy. So
they need to get rid of the fan voting, or whenever they introduce fan voting, all the All-Star appearances after that, you can't include those in Hall of Fame numbers. Like, people go on the Hall of Fame because of stuff like this. It's not a huge talking point, but nonetheless, it's like now you have it was Derrick Rose in contention to make the All-Star game this year. Like, come on.
I think you can keep the fan voting, but I think that it needs to be specific players. You can't vote for anybody. I think there needs to be you need to be able. They take the top players from each team. If your team is terrible, you might only get Cade Williams. Like the Pistons. Cade Williams might be the only person, if he's when he's healthy and playing, he might be the only person available from the Pistons for you to take, because your team has won 12 games. The Cavs, you can pick Garland, Mobley, Allen, Mitchell, and then the Knicks, Randall Brunson.
I'm in for that.
I mean, so that way it's like, okay, we're basically telling you who are all-star caliber players, and then you could pick from that list.
I think they do that already, though.
I think you could
just make the coaches vote on it or something. Give whatever your standing is in the conference, you get. That's how many. Just reverse it out of how many teams are in each side. 15. 15. So if you're the one seed coach, his vote is 15. But then they'll just be voting for their own guys. Nah, never mind. That doesn't make any sense. You can't vote for your own guys. They got to redo it.
All I know is hopefully Darius Garland gets the All-Star nod. Actually, you know what? No, let me rephrase that. Actually, I hope he doesn't, because he has played like he has a chip on his shoulder.
That's the point. That's the best point of the night.
And I think
who cares about an All-Star game? Like, really?
Exactly. And on top of that, I think that it actually I think getting snubbed twice he's dropping 40 and 15
Right.
Yeah,
for at least the next 15 games.
Jeffrey,
Because-
Joey knows how I feel about all of these awards. I really don't give a bleep about any of them. I am
Right.
not. I'm not an awards guy at all.
It's all about the ring.
Yep,
Mhm.
I'm not really an all-star. You know, the dunk contest, all that. It's not really my thing
Totally
either.
agree.
I think it's more of a, you know, you guys spend a lot of money so we can get more revenue type thing.
Hey, wait! I am totally for the dunk contest if
Well, I know
it's
you
if
are.
it's good.
Even though it sucks. Yeah.
You're right. Well, I haven't seen a good one, but I mean, like when you had prime Aaron Gordon and prime Zach LaVine, like those were
Yep.
epic. Or
Yep.
if
Yeah,
you
but
go,
what happened back in the day when guys were jumping off cars? Now it's like they do a two and I'm all, oh my god, that's the greatest dunk I've
Well,
ever seen.
we've seen every dunk in the book pretty
yeah,
much.
I mean,
And it's to the point where the Cavs are in a spot where I agree with you, Brandon. It's like I prefer our guys to rest during All-Star break. Like I'm not even thrilled about Donovan Mitchell if his groin is like 80% playing in the game. Like I prefer, we're in a spot to make some noise this year. How about we just take the rest?
I think that that's. I mean, if I was Donovan Mitchell, he's not going to, but that's
Right.
what
Right.
I would suggest it to him. Like, hey,
Take it
maybe,
easy.
maybe not. Let's not do too much here. We gotta finish out the season and try and make some noise in the playoffs.
So just to wrap it up for today, we have gone from me and Joey talking last week that the Cavs were to go 0-4. I was thinking about putting a bag over my head and coming on here, and you guys not even looking at my face after they would have watched a Washington, Indiana, and Detroit. So now the Cavs are legitimately a top 3 potential seed in the Eastern Conference. Thank you, Brooklyn, very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to see what that is going to be an exciting stretch, I should say, down the stretch.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. This is a real fun show. Got to do our trade talks, which I remember this time last year the Cavs got LeVert, and we were really excited about that because we talked about. It seemed like every time we would talk about a player last year, me and Brandon would. It would be on the internet the next day that the Cavs have interest in that player. It was insane.
Oh my god!
It was like 6 weeks straight, and I was like, someone's just listening to our show and putting it on, and it was crazy. But Jeffrey, thank you for being part of us. Jeffrey is obviously part of the Cleveland Pulse.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Where can we find you? Give us every plug you have.
Yep. So over on YouTube, just type in the Cleveland Pulse, hit enter. Me and Justin, our 2 founders, me and him, we started this January 1st of 2021. So we just hit our 2-year anniversary last month. We talk Browns, me and him, and then me, him, and our buddy Logan. We talk Cavs. We do a little bit of Guardian stuff, not as much as the other 2, but yep, the Cleveland Pulse on YouTube and at Pulse Cleveland over on Twitter. Throw us a follow over there. We just hit over 3,000 followers. So we've been loving the engagement over there. To you guys, Brandon, Joey, all things Cavalier, really appreciate it. I'll be back in the future if you guys are willing to have me on. It was a great time.
Oh yeah, no
you
doubt.
are welcome anytime
Awesome.
you want, my man.
Awesome.
Brandon, a great show, always a blast. Episode 67, right?
Episode 67.
67 of the books, and I think there is only one thing left to do.
Let him know.